Good morning, Saints. I grew up in the Midwest listening to Paul Harvey, smart man that people listened to when he was on the radio, but then they didn't listen. May I respectfully and minimally add to his words, circa 1965, bring it all up to date, and add, would Paul be saying this today? Now then, what makes a nation strong? Taxes? There's nothing new about those either. The first income tax was paid by Abraham. It was written on a rock by the hand of divinity and handed to Moses at the top of Mount Sinai. And you might want to remember this. It was at a flat rate of 10%. It promised the wrath of God on anyone who tampered with or violated that law. Jesus Christ was born in Bethlehem because Joseph was on his way to pay his taxes. Joseph was a relatively well-to-do landowner of the house and lineage of David, yet the taxes extracted by Caesar Augustus were so exorbitant that he didn't have enough money left over to employ a trusted messenger for the mission. So, though his wife was great with child, he made the journey himself, and Jesus Christ was born in Bethlehem because Joseph was on his way to pay his taxes. Jesus Christ was born in a manger because there was a housing shortage. When he got there, our problems, you see, are not new. The Magna Carta was handed to King John on the end of a sword, denying to royalty the right of unlimited taxation. Yet, do you know it was for us, the American people, to become the first in recorded history ever to voluntarily surrender our rights to private property? Oh, yes, we did. With an innocent-sounding constitutional amendment, the 16th, which says that Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived. And we forgot to put any limit to that extent to which we could tax ourselves. Conceivably, we could be taxed out of all of our private property. We could be taxed not 70, 80, 90, but 100%. We could be awakened one morning and find the government owns the farm, the house, the car, the motorcycle, the boat, and it even has a mortgage on the church building. Legally. Historically, when any nation has taxed its people more than 25% of their national income, initiative was destroyed, and that nation was headed for economic collapse. Presently, and on average, combined, our federal, state, county, township, city, and sales taxes, we're all paying upwards of 50% of our income taxes to the American government coffers. History says we'll roll forward on momentum for a little while, but we'd better get some more gas in the tank pretty quick. And at current gas prices and taxes on gas, that may be easier said than done. You see, ours is not the first, by George, good government to arise on the world stage. There have been several. Rome, Spain, Greece, China, and others have each enjoyed about 150 years at its zenith, and that's just about our time. Add about 75 years more, and each one decayed away. Not one of them was ever destroyed by anybody else's marching legions. Each rotted away morally, socially, culturally, economically, simultaneously. You know, one of the most cruel paradoxes of history is this: because each was a good government, it bore bountiful fruit. And when it bore bountiful fruit, the people got fat. And when they got fat, they got lazy. And when they got lazy, they began to want to absolve themselves of personal responsibility and turn that responsibility over to the government to do for them things that they had traditionally been doing for themselves. Just by turning to the left, the world's been going in a circle. A nation would evolve from a monarchy into an oligarchy, from an oligarchy to a dictatorship, from a dictatorship to a bureaucracy, from a bureaucracy to pure democracy, where finally the people would cry out from the chaos and confusion of the streets, "Oh, please, God, give us a king." And God would give them a king, and they'd have a monarchy again and start the whole silly cycle anew. Now either we will profit from the errors of their ways, or it will follow as the night and the day that our children are going to have to relive the dark ages all over again. How come after thousands of years of experimentation, our new nation has come so fast, so far? And this is all in a little more than 200 years. What's the secret of our success? Well, I think it had to do with basic American creed. Perhaps it never passed the pioneer's lips in this form, but if it had, I think he would have said something like this: I believe in my God, my country, and myself. I know that sounds a little trite, too simple of a thing to say, yet it is a rare man today who will dare to stand up and say, I believe in my God, in my country, and I believe in myself. And in that order. When the American pioneer, the early pioneers, first turned their eyes westward, there was only Indian trails or traces of what they were called for him to wander through the wilderness. When that early pioneer turned his eyes towards the west, he didn't demand that somebody else look after him. He didn't demand a free education. He didn't demand a guaranteed rocking chair on the porch. He didn't demand that somebody else take care of him if he got a cold or if he happened to get old along the way. There's an old-fashioned philosophy in those days that a man was supposed to provide for his own and for his own future. He didn't demand a maximum amount of money for a minimum amount of work, nor did he expect to pay for no work at all. Come to think of it, he didn't demand anything. That hard-handed pioneer just looked out on the rolling plains stretching away to the tall green mountains, and then lifted his eyes to the blue skies, to the heavens, and said, thank you, God. I can take it from here. That spirit is about dead in this country. It's dormant. It's been discredited in some circles, driven underground, but it's not dead. Just a few seasons ago, politicians were baiting their hooks with free barbecue and trading Ponzi scheme promises for votes, telling us that you don't want opportunity, you want security. We don't want opportunity, they said, we want security. And they said it so often we became to believe it. We wanted security. Suddenly, with our constitutional guarantees depleted, with our national character eroding away, with our tax laws penalizing those who would dare to prosper, with workers concentrating on how little they can get by with instead of how much they can produce, that free men dragging their feet had been outdistanced by slave workers dragging their chains. And we were sore afraid. Perhaps this is a blessing in disguise, too, maybe a dramatic accomplishment by these modern-day wars and rumors of wars. Should we all get back to work again, if we can revive in ourselves and in our youth something of that basic American creed, the horizon has never been so limitless. 20 years from today, half of the products you will be using in your everyday living aren't even in the dictionary yet. We've got it made. If we just keep rolling on, we've got it made. Or do we? Will we follow those other great nations, states of history into the graveyard of ignominious oblivion? History promises only this for certain: we will get exactly what we deserve. Peace, love. Thank you, Paul. Fisherman.